The RC100 NVMe SSD and XS700 portable SSD are both powered by Toshiba's advanced 3D BICS flash memory, meaning you get solid-state speeds at an affordable price. The XS700 is a wicked fast external drive with USB 3.1 Gen 2 via a Type-C connector, and the RC100 may be small, but its M.2 NVMe interface means sequential read and write speeds at well over 1000 megabytes per second. Click the sponsor link in the description to learn more.
Excellent!
What's up guys, welcome back to Paul's Hardware. This is my monthly builds video for August 2018. I have two mini-itx systems today at $800 and $1,200, but if you're not familiar with this series, every month at the beginning of the month I part out a couple PCs so you guys at home, if you're trying to build your own PC, get a better idea of what parts to choose and how I go about that process. Later in the month I then build one of the PCs and then follow it up with some testing after that, so subscribe to my channel if you're not already, if you want to catch those videos when they come out. Now if you're interested in a video where I actually build a computer, check out my builds playlist. I have plenty of those available and I'll link that in the description, and a straw poll is available down there too, where you guys can vote on what builds you want to see in September, since your feedback is what my upcoming builds are based on. And this is actually a multiple choice response here, so the top two are kind of what you're choosing between here, or choose between AMD and Intel, or choose between high-end desktop and mainstream, or give me a budget range and I'll sort of compile all those results and come out with something next month. Last month though, you guys voted on a mini-itx gaming build. You wanted mid-range, and I actually have a couple, one that's a little bit higher end and one that's probably mid-range. Now today, instead of just rattling off the parts for you guys and giving some notes on each one, I thought I would go through my actual thought process as I put these builds together, and this was based on two primary things, one being that mini-itx form factor requirements, and the second being the recent launch of B450 motherboards. This provides a less expensive option for people who want to build a Ryzen or Ryzen 2 based system, and it's still overclockable and of course available in mini-itx form factor like this one right here from Asus, although I didn't actually choose this one for today because it's a little bit on the more expensive side, but I digress. Here's build number one though, coming in at about $1,200, actually just under $1,200 total down there. So we have a Ryzen 7 2700, a B450 mini-itx motherboard, 16 gigs of memory, a 480 gig SSD, a GTX 1070 Ti graphics card, a mini-itx case from Rio Toro, and a 650 watt 80 plus gold rated power supply. So overall, a really nice set of components. 8-core processor means you can not just game, but you can also do video editing or other tasks that are CPU intensive. You're going to be somewhat limited on expandability with this system due to the form factor, but it's still incredibly powerful in a very small package and not too crazy high of a price. So here's where I started. Mini-itx was the requirement, so I started by looking at mini-itx cases that are available, and gosh, there are quite a few of them, and there's even some quite inexpensive ones down in the $40 to $50 range. So I looked at quite a few of these before deciding on the Rio Toro CR280 for this build. It is pretty small. It's still the vertical tower style orientation, but it comes with a couple 120mm fans. It's a pretty simple design aesthetic that I don't think too many people will be offended by, and it's got a little bit of red highlighting on there if you're into some red accents. Also, airflow is pretty decent on this case, and you do get a side panel window so you can look in at your finished build. Also, it supports full-size ATX power supplies, which means you can save a little bit of money by not having to buy an SFX power supply. Now, there's a ton of cases in this range, about $60 to $80 mini-itx. Honorable mentions that I did not choose, but you could totally go with, is the NZXT H200 or H200i, Thermaltake Core V1 that I worked with recently, Fractal Define Nano S, or the Fractal Node 202, or the Fantex Evolve ITX. All really solid cases, and you could totally swap them into this build without any troubles. So with the case picked out, I moved on to the motherboard next. I know I want B450 and I know I want mini-itx. There's a lot of B450 motherboards, more coming out probably on a daily basis right now because they are very new. But if I go down here and choose just mini-itx boards, there's actually only 3 listed, at least on PC Part Picker right now. This ROG Strix from Asus, which is $160, which is just, it's very expensive, and we're not going over the top here, so I opted for the MSI B450 Gaming Plus AC. There's also an ASRock option down here. The feature set is pretty similar between these two. I went with the MSI honestly just because it was $5 cheaper, but either of these would be a good choice. But some things to point out that are pretty nice about these B450 boards is they have built-in 802.11ac Wi-Fi. It's got USB 3.1 Gen 2, and you should keep an eye out for at least one M.2 slot on these. For a lot of mini-itx boards, they put it on the back. Now for the CPU, I wanted to go with an 8-core because I think in the mini-itx form factor and with everything that AMD has done with Ryzen over the past year and a half or so, Getting 8 cores in the mini-itx is pretty sweet. Now, if you want 8 cores and you want 2nd generation Ryzen, you have to pay a bit of a premium right now. You can actually get the 8-core 1700 for about $220 to jump up to the 2700, which is the 8-core 2nd gen Ryzen. The 2nd gen Ryzens are the ones that start with 2000 here, by the way. It's $280. So I went with that because 2nd gen Ryzen and B450 seems to match up. But you could also easily go with the 1700 here for $220. Heck, you could get the 1800X right now for $240. It's really up to you, but 8 cores is 8 cores. Really, if you want to shave the price down, you're going to need to drop down to 6 cores, which is what I did for the follow-up 800 build. But before moving on to that, the next thing you're going to want to do is choose memory. Here, I wanted 16 gigs since there are only 2 DIMM slots. That means we want a 16 gig 2x8 gig kit. I opted for DDR4 3000 or 3200 as our options here because you get better speed and better overall performance out of Ryzen with some faster memory. And then here's where I very much recommend double checking your chosen motherboard to make sure that you have Ryzen compatibility with the memory that you choose. This ADATA XPG Gamix D10 kit has proven to be compatible with Ryzen in its different flavors, and it's only $160-ish, or only about $8 or $9 more than the cheapest 16 gig kit of DDR4 3000 memory. So I chose that. It's red, by the way. It's also available in black for like $5 more if you guys wanted to go with that instead. Next, we needed storage, and here again, I went with a very simple compatibility feature, which is one of the things you can do on PC Part Picker in the 500 gig range. So you're looking at 480 gig and 512 gig compatible SSDs. The cheapest one here is this Team L5 Lite 3D 480 gig SSD. When you're using the parametric filters here, always double check, reality check kind of what the cheapest options are, and make sure you're not getting like some cut rate product that you've never heard of before. Team is a company that I've worked with, and they make solid products. The L5 Lite's not going to be super fast, but it's an SSD, it'll get you by, and it's 480 gigs. Next, a graphics card. Here, I was looking at the $400 and up range, so GTX 1070, but if you're looking at a 1070, might as well look at 1070 Ti. And if you're looking at 1070 Ti, might as well keep an eye out on 1080s, right? Because if you're looking at the cheapest 1070 right now, it's $400. And there's some other options, of course. Maybe spend $10, $20 more to get yourself a slightly better version, maybe with a better cooler. But then you're like, oh, well, cheapest 1070 Ti right here is $435. It's pretty reasonable. And there's actually a few right here for $435. I opted for the Zotac Mini here because we do have a smaller case and we want to make sure it's compatible. The case actually is compatible with a reasonable size range of graphics cards, but smaller is generally okay, and this Zotac Mini card works just fine. It's still got 2 fans for cooling. By the way, if you're spending $435 on a 1070 Ti, why not spend $450 in a 1080. Those have come down in price quite a bit too. So this is of course the dilemma that everyone who parts out a PC gets into, that just these slight upgrades that you can get for just a little bit more money. It's a creeping problem, but just base things on what your budget can afford and know that even if you get a 1070, 1070 Ti or 1080, they're all really solid cards. You'll just get more frames with the higher end card. Okay, finally we needed a power supply, and for most standard gaming PCs I recommend between 550 and 650 watts for a PSU. I'm also taking a look at the higher wattage here options, and I went with 80 plus gold because that'll give you some good efficiency while not commanding the price premium that the 80 plus platinum stuff does. We can get a Rosewell capstone 550 watt for $43 here, but that has ketchup and mustard cables that aren't that pretty. So here's how I found the Corsair Tx 650M. This is actually on sale right now, so this price probably won't hold, but $55 here for this power supply. Very solid Corsair power supply. It's got all black cables. It's got is it partially or fully modular? It's partially modular, but that's still handy on a mini-itx build. And there you go, guys. For about $1,200, a really powerful 8-core system with 16 gigs of memory and a really powerful graphics card. Of course, there are some slight upgrades or slight downgrades you could switch around if you wanted to raise or lower the price or increase or decrease the performance to meet your needs. But let's do one quick look at the follow-up build, which is really just a slight variation of the $1,200 build I just did, but I shaved $400 off the price. So here's the $800 more mid-range mini-itx gaming PC, and it's based on roughly the same platform. We got the same case with the Rio Toro case here. We've got the same motherboard with the MSI B450. Here I have downgraded the CPU a little bit to the 6-core 2600. That's going to save us $100. 2 less cores, but you can still overclock it. So for gaming and everything, this is going to be super awesome. Gaming and streaming too. I cut our memory in half down to 8 gigs, so 2x4 gigs. This is really just what you need to get by buy right now, and it's still just under $100. I'd recommend more memory if you're going to choose one thing in this set of parts to upgrade. But beyond that, we've got a 240 gig SSD, which you can get for $45. Again, this is saving some money here, but it's really not that much more to go for 480 gigs, so very much consider that if you don't want to be swapping out an SSD in the future. We downgraded the graphics card to the EVGA GTX 1066 gig. It's only $270 though, so that shaved a ton of money off the price and still a very capable graphics card. Same case, of course, and then we've got a Rosewell Capstone 550 watt power supply, which again saves us a little bit of money, but not a whole lot. Here again, I might just opt for that 80 plus gold 650 watt unit because the Capstone does have ketchup and mustard cables, which won't look very pretty. But if you're on a budget, ketchup and mustard cables don't really matter when it comes to performance, and you can get this whole system for $800. And here again, very well-rounded system, actually extremely close in specs and performance to the $800 builds that I recently did in my $800 how to build a PC video, as well as the setup video that I followed it up with. So if you guys are interested in how to build a PC, definitely check out that video and check out the setup video too if you want to know the steps to go through if you're setting up your PC for the very first time, installing Windows and getting your drive set up. And of course, leave me a comment in the comment section to let me know what you thought of these builds, if there's any spin on it that you would put to sort of give it your own flavor or maybe eke out a little bit more performance. And of course, don't forget to vote on the straw poll for next month's builds because there's a lot of exciting hardware coming out that I am looking forward to working with. Thank you guys so much for watching this video though, and we'll see you next time.